woman was exempt from 35b. A woman is exempt from the prohibition to shave her payas or her beards. And we had two possibilities of why she would be, how we know that she's exempt from that possibility. Either because under normal conditions she probably doesn't have a beard, or it's a comparison from the laws of Aaron kind of Kohanim. So we said number of different prohibitions are repeated by both Jews and Kohanim, and specifically destroying the beard, cutting the payas, and making these scratches over a dead body, whether you use your hands or a vessel, an implement. All of those are repeated, and because in the parsha of Kohanim we speak about Kohanim, we say Bnei Aaron, the sons of Aaron. We learn from there, not Bnei Sarah, not daughters of Aaron, and potentially the introduction of Bnei Aaron refers to everything that's in the parsha, not just the first item, which is Tumah. So therefore, we know if Kohanim, it's limited. Kohanim that have very many mitzvahs, the Torah still limits them to men only and not to women. Certainly, a Yisrael that has many less mitzvahs should have the same limitation applied. The Gemara offered an alternative. The Gemara rejected it, and the Gemara finally wants to know what, with regard to what law do we treat the beard of a woman like a beard? The Gemara says it's with regard to Negoim. With regard to the spiritual affliction of leprosy, we treat there's a difference between Negoim, whether they're in an area of the body that has hair or not. The color is different, the signs are different, what makes a tameh is different, and basically the Gemara is saying that if a woman grows a beard, then the space of her beard is would be treated as a hairy area. Okay, so Gemara says we're at Tumas Negoim Behediksiv, about 4 lines on top of the wide lines.
4 lines by the top of the wide.
On top, 35b.
35b. Let's see.
So Tumas Negoim Behediksiva. The Isha Kiya by Nega Berosh Ibizokan. It says a man or a woman if they'll have a nega either on the head or on their beards. Presumably, a man or a woman, both of them can have a nega either on their hair or on their beards. So Marzutra says, no, you're right. The tumah, we know that that the tumah would be identical. There's no reason to presume that a woman's beard should not be able to become tameh. We need to know that the process of tahara. The taharas negam. The Gemara says taharas negam nami pshita. Keeping the bas tumahi bas taharahi. In other words, if she can become tameh, like as if it's in a place that has hair, so then because even though it's abnormal, but she does have hair in facial hair, then presumably it has the same process to make it pure again, to remove the tumah of mitzvah. So the Gemara says it's still not clear why. I would have thought, in other words, if not for this brisa, I would have thought let's studying siv. What does that mean? Ish Aisha ki yeba nega. You have a man or a woman that has a nega berosh on the head, because both of them have hair on their heads. Or on their beard, that's obviously going to be in a man, and not include a woman, because it's abnormal for a woman to have facial hair. That's what the brisa specifies. That is why the brisa specifies that hair on the beard is considered hair. Facial hair for women is considered an area with hair with regard to negam. Isi tani, af bal yikrachu nashim p'turas. So this is a sidetrack. Once we're talking about the prohibitions that are mentioned by Jews and by Kohanim alike, so we spoke about leisakif and leisashches, cutting the payas or destroying the beards, and now one of the other ones is scratching over a dead body. What does that mean? So there is srita and gedida. Srita is by hand, gedida is with a vessel, with an implement, a knife maybe or something else. We'll soon see. It's not as simple as I'm making it out. there is an opinion that says that srita and gedida are really the same thing. They both go. It's just two words to speak of the same subject. So Isi says, "Bayikruchu nashim p'turas." Women are exempt from self-mutilation over a dead body. My time in Isi. Why? What's the reason of Isi? The Dora Shachi. The verse states, "Bonim atam Hashem alekechem." You're sons of God, and therefore don't engage in Amorite practices, pagan practices. What are the pagan practices? Lois is going to do. Don't do gedida. Gedida is with a vessel. And don't mutilate yourself between your eyes over a dead body. Okay, well, I guess the next point also, which we'll have to examine, we'll get to it in a few minutes, is karcha bein einechem. What else has to do with bein einechem, between your eyes? The mitzvah of tefillin. Right, tefillin have to be put bein einechem, between your eyes. Obviously, we don't put tefillin between our eyes exactly. Put it above. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Okay, ki am kodesh atal Hashem lekecha bonim v'loy bonis. Bonim means sons and not daughters. Lekarcha for the prohibition of karcha. Ato am lekarcha eini el legedida. So both gedida and karcha are written in the pasuk. Karcha is with the hand on the head. Gedida is with a vessel, with an implement. So maybe the limitation of banim, sons, and not banais, daughters, is not for karcha, but it's for gedida. Maybe women are actually excluded from self-mutilation with a vessel. When the verse says, "Ki am kodesh atal Hashem lekecha," how gedida amor. So the problem here is the first set begins with Bonim Atam Hashem Lekechem, your sons to Hashem, and then it ends with Ki Am Kodesh Atam, because you're a holy nation. What's the difference between Am and Bonim? Where the women are included. Am is a very inclusive term. Bonim is a very specific term. So something is included because it says Am Kodesh, but something is excluded because it says Bonim. So which one are women excluded from? Which one are women included from? So Hamanim kaim bonim v'le'bonos lekarcha. It must be that mutilation with the hand between on the head between the eyes is what women are exempt from. I think Mara asks, well, in a second, it could be either way, right? It says bonim and it says am. It doesn't tell you specific, and then there's two prohibitions in between. One is karcha, one's gedida. One is self-mutilation of the head with the hand, and the other one is self-mutilation with an implement. Why are we saying this one over the other one? Why are we saying that women are exempt from karcha but obligated in gedida? Why can't it be the other way? Why are we including gedida, that they're refrained, they're prescribed from gedida, cutting with an implement? It's a karcha, but exempt from the requirement. They are not enjoined from cutting themselves between the eyes of their hands. So karcha is this self-mutilation is only in an area that has hair. So it would be the head between the eyes. That's roughly where a karcha would be, and it would be by hand. Whereas gedida with an implement, it could be both in an area of the body that has hair or an area that doesn't. Maybe only males are included both for karcha and gedida. That's referring to the prohibition of srita. Srita is scratching the body with the hands. So karcha would be in a hairy place. Srita would be where there's no hair. So the Gemara says, "Kasavar isi srita ugedida achasim." Isi holds that srita and gedida are the same thing. They're both either with the hand or with a kli, whether it's an area of the body that has hair or whether it does not. Okay, so that was the first explanation of of Isi. Abaye offers a second explanation of Isi. Okay, so the first explanation was a combination of bonim and am. Bonim is a limited term. Am is an inclusive term. One of the prohibitions are included because of am. One of them are excluded because of bonim. We prefer to have the more limited prohibition. Women are excluded from. And this is the general theme of the Gemara, which is called tefasta muat tefasta. The Gemara always tries to pick the smallest limitation. So if you have two prohibitions, one's a big prohibition, one's a small prohibition. Why is gedida big? Because it's relevant both in a place of here and in a place that doesn't have here. Whereas karcha is a much smaller prohibition. It's only in a location of here, only on the head between the eyes. So therefore, we choose to exclude women from the more limited prohibition over the more expansive prohibition. Make sense? Okay. Abaye Amar, Abaye is an alternative reason. The EC Gamar Karcha Karcham Imnei Aaron. So because, like we said, this is one of the prohibitions that are written both by Jews, that's the verses we just saw, and with regard to the children of Aaron. And in the children of Aaron, what does it say? B'nei Aaron. And according to Abaye, B'nei Aaron goes in the entire parsha. And all the prohibitions of Aaron are only men and not women, of Kohanim. Malach Nashim Puris, Afkan Nashim Puris. The Isvirulon, the Chiksiv Kra, Bekula, and Yanahu Dachsiv. Okay, so now the Gemara continues a similar question to what we asked yesterday. So Abaye here is presuming that B'nei Aaron is an exclusion that relates to every single one of the commandments of Aaron, of the Kohanim. If that's the case, Nishta Kramine, why do I need to make this Gzera Shava? It tastes of a Kal V'chaimer. I have a Kal V'chaimer. V'amina, let's say as follows. Same Kal V'chaimer as you saw before. Uma Kohanim Sharei Behem HaKosav Mitzvah Yiseris B'nei Aaron V'lei B'nai Aaron Yisrael Lekolshkin. So Kohanim have a huge pile of prohibitions. The Torah is much more freer with dispensing commandments to Kohanim, right? You got 24 of them, 24 extra ones that we don't have. So you'd think, presumably, that if the Torah limits Kohanim and says only the males, not the females, despite the fact that Torah is very free to give out new prohibitions, for Yisrael, where the Torah is much more limited in prohibitions, certainly the same limitation should also apply. Only sons, not daughters. Right? Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I don't need the Gzera Shava. I don't need to compare Karcha from Aaron to scratching yourself by Yisrael, because I can logically deduce from the fact that Aaron is exempt, Aaron's women are exempt, Aaron's daughters are exempt, certainly any Yisrael's daughters are also exempt. Daughters, I mean here loosely. Okay. Ilav, so the Gemara says, Ilav Gzera Shava. Ilav Gzera Shava, if not for the Gzera Shava, have a mina hifsika inyan. Okay. What does this mean? Ilav Gzera Shava, have a mina hifsika inyan. If not for the Gzera Shava of Karcha, then I would think that B'nai Aaron, what's the, in B'nai Aaron, Parshas Emor, what does it say? B'nai Aaron don't become Tamei. And then it says a whole bunch of other things. B'nai Aaron don't destroy your beard, don't cut your past, don't do Srita Gedida and Karcha. So I would think that actually Tumah is Hifsik Inyan. It's separation. B'nai Aaron, the daughters of Aaron are exempt from the requirement from becoming Tamei, but everything else they are obligated in. And the Gzera Shava comes to tell me that no, women are also exempt from Karcha. Gemara says, Hashtanami name a Hifsik Inyan. But that's not really a good answer. Why? Because maybe you're right. Maybe it's Hifsik Inyan. The truth of the matter is that the daughters of Aaron are not exempt from the laws of Karcha. If they scratch themselves over a dead body, they're also liable. What about the Gzera Shava? We need the Gzera Shava to compare the Karcha. Tell me something else. Look at the Tanya. So the question is sort of how do you quantify what is a karcha? What is a scratching? If a guy takes 5 fingers and scratches himself, is that 5 prohibitions or is that 1 prohibition? Talmud Loimer karcha. Torah repeats the word karcha twice. L'chayev akol achas v'achas. You're liable on each one 5 times. Okay. Beroisham Talmud Loimar. But by Aaron Akayin, it says like Yikru Karcha Beroisham. And then it's a Pa'asa Kanam Legalechu V'Saram Yisr to Sarotas. What does the word Beroisham tell you? Talmud Loimar. The Fishin Emer Lois is going to do Lois Sima Karcha Bein Nechem Lameis. Because the Torah says you should not do Karcha Bein Nechem between your eyes. I would think that Karcha is limited to between the eyes. How do we know that the entire head is included? Talmud Loimar Beroisham. Beroisham tells me that the actual between your eyes means on your head. That you're liable on the head just like you're liable between the eyes. Now this would make sense with regard to Kahanim, because Kahanim in general have a more expansive set of commandments. So maybe the Torah includes the Kayan's head, but not a Yisrael's head. Yisrael would only be chayav on Karcha if he scratches himself between the eyes. Whereas a Kayan would be chayav anywhere on his head. How do we know the law of a Kayan applies to Yisrael? And the answer is Nemer kan Karcha, Nemer lahal Karcha, Ma kan chayav kol Karcha v'Karcha, v'chayav al rosh k'bein einayim, afahayin chayav kol Karcha v'Karcha, v'chayav al rosh k'bein einayim. Just like by Kayan, you're chayav on each specific scratch, and you're chayav on the whole head. So to Yisrael, also you're chayav on each specific scratch, plus and on the whole head. Now, by a Kayan, the Torah does not say that Karcha is specifically for a dead body, someone who died. But by Yisrael, it does say it, right? It says "Loisasimu Karcha bein einechem lo meis," to a dead body. By Kayin, it says "Lo yiklu Karcha b'roisham u'pa'as sekanam lo yigalechu v'sarim lo yisru to sarotas." So basically, don't do Karcha, don't shave your payas, and don't do Srita. Is Karcha there also on a dead body or not? Doesn't say. So that's what the Gzera Shava teaches me, that a Kayin also, the prohibition is limited to a dead body. So now we basically have a Gemara lined up where we can include women, and we still need the Gzera Shava for something else. So how do we know to exclude women, like the opinion of Isi? So the Gemara concludes, Im kein echtav kra kerach, my karcha shma min otarti. The Torah could have said lo yikrachu kerach b'roisham. Why is it plural? The plural is that there's two Gzera Shavas here. There's the basic Gzera Shava of the comparison, plus there's a second Gzera Shava that tells me it's only relevant to women. I'm sorry, to men, not to women. Women are excluded. Okay. So that's two different explanations of Isi. Again, explanation number one is the difference between Bonim and Am, sons and a nation, and Bonim excludes Karcha and Am includes Gedida. Abaye's explanation is we learn Karcha from Bnei Aaron. Just like Bnei Aaron v'lo Bnei Aaron, by Karcha, so too Karcha of Yisrael is also Bonim v'lo Bonis. Rava Amar, Rava says, Hainu time at Isi, the reason of Isi is the Yalef Bein Einechem Mitfilin. Now, by Karcha, it says Bein Einechem, between the eyes. We also say Bein Einechem with regard to Tefillin. Malahal and Noshim Turas, just like women are exempt from Tefillin. How do we know women are exempt from Tefillin? Remember, because Tefillin is compared to Torah. Why is Tefillin compared to Torah? Because Tefillin is next to Torah both in the first and second parsha of Kriya Shema. In the first parsha of Kriya Shema, it's Torah, Tefillin, Mezuzah. In the second parsha of Kriya Shema, it's Tefillin, Torah, Mezuzah. So Tefillin is always an adjunct to Torah, and therefore they're equated. Just like Torah, women are exempt from. How do we know that? Because it says Shnatam Aitzim Livnechem to your sons. Shnatam Livnecha to your sons. Therefore, women also. Sons specifically, not daughters. Okay, so Rava says we learn Karcha to Tefillin. So just like women are exempt from tefillin, they're exempt from karcha as well. So Gemara says, why does Rava reject the source of Abaya? He doesn't like the fact that you can make two Gzera Shavas in the same word because it was written in the plural. Why does Abaya not like Rabba? So Abaya says, tefillin gufayo mehacha gomer lo. The source of tefillin itself is learned from here. Mala, in other words, the Gzer Shava that compares tefillin to karcha actually is to teach me something else. What does it teach me? Mala halan makam sha'is and karcha begoiva sharash. I've come makam hanocha begoiva harash. Tefillin is not placed between the eyes; it's placed on the head between the eyes, and that's what's learned from that Gzer Shava. Okay, now we get to a very, very, very fundamental Gemara, very appropriate for this time of year. Now, remember, there's three explanations, right? First explanation, the Gemara explains why Abaya and Rava don't like each other's opinion. Why doesn't anyone want the first opinion? Between Bonamatim and Am Kaddish. Ben Labai, Ben Rava, Hi Bonamatim, I Darshabe. What do they use for how do they understand the words Bonamatim Lashem Alekechem? Your sons to God. So the Gemara says, Hi Mibar Lelekeh Tanya. It is necessary for this bryce, Bonamatim Lashem Alekechem. You are sons to God. Bisman sha'atem noyagim minig bonim, atem kriyim bonim, ein atem noyagim minig bonim, ein atem kriyim bonim. Div Rabbi Yehudah. Rabbi Yehudah says, if the Jewish people follow the law of God, then they're called his children. If they reject the law of God, then they're not called his children. And this is the opinion of Rabbi Yehudah. Rabbi Meir says, ben kach o ben kach atem kriyim bonim. Whether you obey or disobey God's commands, we are called God's children. Shenemar, as the verse states, Bonim Secholim, children that are, literally means idiots, stupid. Bonim Secholim Hema, they're sort of idiotic kids. V'aymer, and furthermore, the verse states, Bonim Le'emun Bum, children that do not believe in him, do not believe in God. V'aymer, furthermore, it says, Zera Merayim Bonim Ashchisim, sons that are destructive. V'aymer, and the final verse says, in a place where I have called you not my nation. Yomer lahem bini kel chai. I will call you the sons of living gods, my own children. Okay, so the Gemara wants to explain what are all these verses. My v'aymer. What's the v'aymer? Okay, so the first one is v'chitem a hu demikri bani kiles behu emnusa lo mikri benayu. So in other words, Rameir says, regardless of whether or not you fulfill God's commandments, you're called children. What's the source? The first source is only that you're called idiotic children. So maybe if you're an idiot, then God will call you his child. But if you refuse to believe in God, if they don't believe in God, then they should lose the title of God's children. So Tashma, that's where you have an additional verse. They're called God's children that don't believe in him. And if you'll say that once they bow down to idols, they become pagans, then they're not called children. They lose the title of being called God's sons. Tashma, let's examine this. The next verse is even destructive children, they're still called banim. God still calls Jews who bow down to pagan worship children. Maybe that their title will be destructive children. They'll never be able to get back the title of banim, even if they do tshuva. That's according to Rashi's explanation. In a place where God says, I have rejected their title, I have rejected their nationhoods. When they do tshuva, I will call them the children of a living God. Whether a Jew who sins is called children. However, it's worthwhile to point out that this debate seems to be resolved. The Kabbalists, the Chassidim, and the Vilna Gaon are all of the opinion that, and the Sephardi Paiskim, that the halacha follows the opinion of Rabbi Meir, not Rabbi Yehudah. So even if a Jew does sin, he's still called Bonim Lamokim, son of God. Okay, next Mishnah. And go right into Kachimir. Okay, basically the rule is we'll just summarize the Mishnah first, then go through the specifics. If you're in the process of bringing an offering, all the technical details need to be done by men, with two exceptions. One of the exceptions we've seen notably before, both of these exceptions we've seen before, which is that a Saita and a Nazir both lift up their sacrifice, called Tnufa. Okay, so let's go one by one. Hasmichus. Smicha is the act of sort of sort of confessing one's sins over the animal. She pushed down on the head of the animal. Hatnufais is lifting up the sacrifice. Hagoshes is bringing it. Hakmitzais, this is for a mincha offering. That's an offering of frankincense, flour, and oil. The frankincense is sort of removed through a process called kmitza. Haktaris is actually burning the sacrifice, whatever type of sacrifice it may be. The hamalikais, malika is the method in the temple that was used to kill a chicken. The kohen would using his thumbnail would pierce the back of the neck of the chicken. V'hakabolis, accepting the blood from the animal that was just slaughtered. V'hazois, or sprinkling the blood. Noegim ba'anoshim v'loy b'noshim. This is true of men and not of women. Men are kosher for these jobs. By the way, a lot of these jobs require a kohen. For example, to bring the sacrifice, you need to be a kohen. Malika must be done by a kohen. Smicha is not necessarily. All need to be done by a man, not by a woman. Except for the mincha of a saita and a nazar, where they do lift up their sacrifice, their mincha offering. Okay, and the Gemara, this is relatively simple. The Gemara just goes through sources for each of these. Smichos. How do we know smicha? That the part of where one confesses his sin over the animal. Daber al bnei Yisrael v'samach. Bnei Yisrael samchem ve'ein bnei Yisrael samchas. Speak to the sons of Israel. The sons of Israel do smicha and not the daughters. Tnufais, lifting up the sacrifice. Daber al bnei Yisrael ve'henif. Speak to the sons of Israel and to Tnufa. Bnei Yisrael manif ve'ein bnei Yisrael manifis. Sons of Israel do Tnufa, not daughters. Hagoshais, bringing the mincha to the corner of the altar. So hagosha is a major component of the haktar of a mincha. So what does that mean? The giving of the offering takes place in two components. First, the dish with the oil and flour mixed together, and the frankincense on the side is brought to the mizbeach. Then the kohen removes the frankincense called kmitza, and he puts that on the altar to be burnt. That hagosha is a process of hakravaisa, of bringing the mincha offering close, and it specifically says the sons and not the daughters. I'm sorry, bnei Aaron, the sons of Aaron and not the daughters of Aaron. Kmitzais, the process of removing the frankincense, like we said. T'chsiv v'hevia al bnei Aaron v'kamatz bnei Aaron v'lei bnei Aaron. The sons of Aaron will do kmitza and not the daughters. Haktarais, burning the sacrifice. T'chsiv v'hiktirois bnei Aaron v'lei bnei Aaron. The sacrifice is performed by the sons of Aaron, not the daughters. Hamalikais, this is killing of the birds. Malika, killing the bird, is compared to haktara, burning the sacrifice, just like burning the sacrifice is with male kahanim. So to malika is also only with male kahanim. Hakabalais, receiving the blood once the animal's slaughtered. It says the children of Aaron will do the hikrivu. Hikrivu, probably translate that word as sacrifice. I translate the word hikrivu. Hikrivu literally means to bring close. They talk about burning. Okay, but in context here, hikrivu means to bring it close. Hikrivu zu kabal sadam, and the rabbis say that this time where it says v'hikriv, it actually doesn't mean the burning of the sacrifice. It means receiving the blood. And again, it says bnei Aaron, and therefore it's only male kahanim. Hazoi, sprinkling with blood. Hazor the hecha. Which hazor are we referring to? Okay, either para, if we're talking about the para aduma, Elazar kasabah. So wherever Elazar was the kohen gadol, Elazar the son of Aaron, later became the kohen gadol. 1 second. Yeah. The hikr of Elazar, meaning Elazar was one who brought the sacrifice, i.e., that you need a kohen gadol to bring it. So that excludes women. Idipnim, if we're talking about the sprinkling of the blood that happens inside the temple on Yom Kippur, HaKayin HaMashiach Kasabah. It says also the kohen gadol, the anointed kohen, which is kohen gadol. El Hazod ben Oif. Rashi has a different okay, let's change it over here. Okay. In our text it reads the ben Oif, which is ben Oif means a bird. It's why it's called the son of a bird. That's just terminology that's often thrown around. Rashi says it's dam Oif. It's the blood of a bird. The Asya B'Kal V'Chomer. What time is this? 15?
15.
Okay, so let's just finish this. We'll finish this. Okay. Ela Hazod ben Oif. The Asya B'Kal V'Chomer ben Tzayin. We learn it from the blood of a sheep. With regard to slaughtering a sheep, a Yisrael is allowed to slaughter an animal, but only an animal, not a bird. And yet the Torah says a kohen must sprinkle the blood. So therefore, a bird where the Torah is more limited, the kohen must slaughter the birds, really kill the birds. Therefore, certainly we should require a kohen to sprinkle the blood. Okay, stop her.